Happy Sabbath, everyone. How are we doing today? It is a blessing and both an honor to be in front of you once again to host another session of Right Before. Today with me, I have a good friend of mine, a college attendee, someone who is well-versed, educated, and also pretty talented on the basketball court as well. Friend of mine, Trey.
What's going on, everybody? Is it like a camera?
Yeah. But it's good to have you up here today, fam. I appreciate you coming.
No problem, man.
But as we get on right before today, I want to get right into it. The conversation I want to open up and bring to the table is none other than our very own Simone Biles here at the Olympic team. And one of my big things that I wanted to point out and, of course, get right to and asking about is what are your thoughts and opinions on her just outside of the whole situation as an athlete alone?
Um, Coming from an athletic perspective, I think it's important to prioritize your mental health, but I also feel like as an athlete, you have a commitment to your team, right? So in her case, I can see both sides. Why she decided to, not participate due to her mental health issues, but at the same time, Simone Biles took a spot. Let's say she took a spot from somebody that could have participated, right? So let's say the person under her that didn't get selected, Simone Biles choosing not to participate. Well, if my performance was under her, I'm thinking I could have, and I'm ready to participate in the Olympics. I could have went up there and improved myself. You know what I'm saying? So, from an athletic perspective, I feel like I don't think she let her team down. But am I too close?
No.
I don't think she let her team down, but I do think she took up a spot that somebody else could have had that was ready to perform.
Of course, and it's seeing both sides to the situation and the story. But at the same time, I want to look and notice that I don't think, of course, we know that she's a top tier athlete. She's at the very pinnacle of what it means to go out, perform, succeed, and achieve in her respective competitive sport, because she's already in my book one of the GOATs, won more gold medals than I can even almost count at this point in time. And like you're saying, I understand that other people see that and can feel a certain type of way because they were trying to get that same spot or trying to get up there and get the opportunity to perform. But as we look at that, I also want to note that, like you were saying, mental health, and like I had this conversation last week when we were on here about mental health. It is oftentimes, even though we have a bigger spotlight on it, it's oftentimes overlooked. And one of the bigger things I was looking at is understanding that mental health, not as performance, is a big part of your performance is your mental health.
Yeah.
It's a three-way pie chart. It's a triangle that you have, and it's three different pieces to it. You have the work you put in, the perseverance, but the third part of that is the rest. And I'm seeing, as I was listening to her story and I read up a lot about it, she was saying how it's supposed to be, almost most of the time, it's supposed to be a fun experience. And I'm sure you know this as an athlete. Going out to perform is supposed to be fun. How important is it to balance out those three things, perseverance, work, as well as rest?
Like you said, they're all equal, right? So you can put in the work, but you need to listen to your body when it tells you to rest, right? Another thing, is it should be balanced. A lot of competition is mental, right? And this is something we talked about previously, but it starts up here, man. If you feel like you're inadequate going into a game, a event, a performance, then it has a toll. It takes a toll on your performance, right? Another example would be Ben Simmons. For those of you who watch basketball, his performance in the finals wasn't good, and I think a lot of that was due to your confidence, which is due to mental health. So I think all of them play a equal role in an athlete's performance. So I don't think there's one that's greater than the other one. You need to balance all three. So I think it's really important.
Of course, and looking at that and noting the fact that balance is key in terms of those things, oftentimes we see, like Pastor and I were talking about last week when he was on here, we having a conversation about Shakira Richardson. We put people like that perform at such a high level when it comes to sports at such a almost godlike level that we expect them not to deal with the same issues we would have to face on a daily. And that's that balance we talk about key. And oftentimes we struggle in our day-to-day activities in life if we don't maintain balance in whatever area it is we're working in, whether that be church, work, school, whatever it is. If we don't maintain balance, then we'll oftentimes see a mental breakdown in multiple factors, whether that be with our relationship with ourselves, with others, with God, however that goes into. It's important to understand that that balance, like you were saying, must be there in order for us to simply be able to operate. And understanding that and looking at that and seeing what she was talking about. Another thing that came to my attention, I was reading through her story, is just her routine in general. We understand that being a gymnast, I don't know too much about gymnastics and how all that works and going into it. I'm sure it's extremely difficult to be able to maintain your balance in the air as well as when you're doing all those type of flips. She was saying that when she got to a place, she felt like her body and her mind weren't in sync. I know you don't do gymnastics, but you participate in basketball, like you play at the collegiate level. How important is that for your body and your mind to be in sync?
Oh, man. Coming with the questions today, man.
Yeah.
It's real important, man. Like, if your body and mind, like I said, most of with basketball, to me, it's mental, right? Just as much as it's physical, you always got to be thinking. So if your mindset isn't right going in, then your body could be good, but like, you know, if you ain't confident, if you're not feeling in sync, you know, if you're not feeling coordinated, then it might not translate well, you know, when you're playing or, you know, when you're out on the court. So I think it's important, man, for every sport or every athletic event, you got to be coordinated mentally and physically. So,
of course, and seeing that and understanding that that coordination has to be present in order for you to be able to seek the wanted performance, whether it be not only on the court but in the way you handle press. And I won't say press in terms of people you deal with on the outside, but just as well as pressure and the things you deal with, whether that come from the pressure to go out and compete, the pressure to balance, whether it be like you're doing at college, whether it be between your school as well as performing and being able to maintain a high output in both areas. Like you were saying, that mental health has to be constantly nurtured and taken care of. And I think it's the same thing as like a plant almost. You got to give attention to it daily. It doesn't have to be overabundant, but at the same time, it has to be consistent.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times with, well, I can't speak for everybody, but for me, I think it has a lot to do with, you know, how you grew up, you know, the environment that you're in, right? So for me, how I deal with my mental health might not be the same as how somebody else, you know, deals with mental health, or even people watching this and people in the audience. You know, I feel like it's your responsibility to know how to take care or cater to your mental health. So, you know, she felt like this was the best decision for her. Okay, I feel like she's already proven herself. So, you know, people were saying, oh, she should have did this, da-da-da-da-da. Well, I mean, the medals speak for themselves. Regardless of how she participated in this Olympics, she's a top-tier athlete, and that's undeniable. So if this is how she feels like she needs to deal with it, okay, well, we see it, and I guess we just move on now.
Of course, I completely agree. And I also read that she's taking time to go back. She's still there in Tokyo, of course, but she's taking time to go out and practice, like she said, going back to the basics and understanding what it is that makes her what it is she is, one of the greats. And that's being able to do her routines, do her twists, and do her flips, not only in a way in which she'll be able to actually win the gold medal. She said because she was saying she had put that at risk, but be able to protect her safety, because that should be first and foremost in whatever it is she's doing. Because when she got to the point where she was talking about she felt unsafe in the air, because I seen a video she had posted of her going through her regular routine and landing on her back. Gymnastics is something that can be extremely dangerous when it's not taken right. So looking at that, I understand that that's something for her to take time away and go back to the basics and just break it down. But as I move on and look through this, another important, something else that I thought was pretty serious is that she faced dealing with a certain level of trauma. And I understand that is can play, like from personal experience, that can play a huge factor in terms of how you're able to process and deal with just simple activities, or on her level, something a lot more complex. And I was dealing with a team doctor that was sexually abusing not only her, but a lot of the other Olympic athletes for a long time. What kind of impact do you think not that specifically, but trauma may have on an athlete when they're supposed to go out and perform?
I think it can play a huge part, man. Like kind of like what I was saying earlier, how people mental health. I think it depends on experience or how you grew up, and so something like that, I couldn't imagine it, man. These are people that you're supposed to be trusting, right? And to be, you know, to be abused like that, that's I don't know. I think that would play a good toll, like on somebody's not only performance but just how they think in general, right? I also think trauma can be used as a positive reinforcement, right? A lot of athletes come from, well, not a lot, but some athletes come from like broken homes or come from dangerous environments, and they use that as fuel to get to a better place, right? A lot of these NBA players, if you do your research on them, and NFL players, they come from one-parent households and kind of poor neighborhoods, and they use that because they want to take care of their families, right? Or they want to give their kids a better opportunity. And, that can be positive fuel, man, to have a long career or, be able to get to the levels you want to get as far as athletic performance. So I feel like it can go both ways. It just depends on, how you look at it.
And as I agree with you, and also how you deal with it and how you're able to have those conversations with others, because at the same time, it can't be something that's shunned or looked down upon, because I know oftentimes when it deals with situations like that, I read up on it, certain athletes were paid off in private settlements in order to keep it quiet. That way you can go out there and continue to perform. A conversation I was having with my grandfather and also somebody else, I forgot who it was at some point in time this week, was that when that happens, like this guy Charlie Kirk had said that she was weak, she's a quitter, she's a sociopath, and she's just a product of a generation that is not taught how to persevere. I completely disagree with that take, because one of the biggest things for me is I look at as African Americans here in this country, we've been Mr. Tony from Ephesus had the conversation, but as African Americans, we've been, since the very first time we were brought here, almost forced and pushed into a mindset of you're going to perform for me no matter what, no matter how or no matter where you are, whether it be your mind or your physical state. Your job and your responsibility is to go out there and do what it is that I need you to do. And that's almost going back to slavery in the type of way, because if you're not going out there and doing what I need or what I want, then you're nothing but another, that they say like that at the end of the day. So how big of a factor do you think that plays in terms of how our athletes are taken care of here in the United States, or whether it be anywhere else in the world?
Unfortunately, man, I think that's just part of what comes with it. Because at the end of the day, sports is marketing, right? And so you're trying to sell a product to an audience. So the athlete is what brings in the money, right? So unfortunately, athletes are replaceable, right? And so if you're not able to, from a marketing point of view, if you're not able to perform for me and bring in the maximum amount of views, profit, sponsors, endorsements, then you can be replaced. And I think, especially at a professional level, that's something that's got to be in the athlete's mind, And I don't think it's fair, but it's just like, how can we change? Like, I don't see a foreseeable way to change it, because at the end of the day, like I said, like, it's entertainment, right? And so with that, these people ahead, like, in charge, they're trying to profit, man. And so with athletes, I think their mental health, as far as these stakeholders and stuff, that's on the back burner, man. It's like, what can you do? And it is kind of selfish, but like, what can you say, If you try to speak out, then, okay, we'll get somebody newer, younger, faster, stronger. It's just like one of those things that are necessary evil.
I think in order to respond to that, I think it all starts with how our generation is taught to respond, react, and take care of themselves at home, in terms of how they carry themselves when they get out, and not to take anything. I know one of the biggest things my grandfather tells me when I work is that, of course, I'm a part of a company, and my job is to go out there and do the best I can. But I shouldn't let nobody take advantage of me in any type of way. And understanding that from a marketing perspective, the way you look at it is you want to, like you were saying, take this person or take these group of people and be able to make the most amount you can off of them in the time that you have them at their peak, at their pinnacle, and at the top of their game. But at the same time, I think as being a part of that system, you have to be able to look at it or step aside and be consciously aware that you are a part of something that's bigger than yourself, but be self-aware in what it is that you may need or want to have taken care of.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, how do we address that almost as a necessary evil? I think if I were to come up, and I know I don't have all the answers, that's something that has to be addressed as a whole, as a nation, because it's going to take more than just one person to say something. It's going to take a group of people to say something, large group. And my way I would want to see is that these athletes, the ones who would be replacing the ones who are there wanting to say something, the ones who are stronger, faster, bigger, younger, having that fresh blood come out with the exact same mentality and letting everybody in that position know, whether you're a higher up or at the same level as me, we refuse to take anything that is less than what we deserve. And I think that's the mentality everyone should continuously strive for, no matter what it is. You're an athlete, whether you're working for a business company, whether you're your own manager or anything like that, everybody deserves a certain level of attention, care, and respect. I think that's my biggest thing.
So with that, I just want to know, or even for the people who are kind of thinking, how do I determine what I'm worth, let's say in a company, let's say even in a church, right? As an athlete, you know, as just somebody living their day-to-day life, how can you determine what it is that you're worth wherever you're at?
Oh, well, if we're going to throw that question back, I think my big thing would be able to look at my production. For example, me, I work at my Whataburger. I know if I'm gonna put it on just a basic level, when I get orders and things like that, I'm to the point now where I've been working there. I haven't been working there that long, a little over 3 months. But I'm at the point now where people who've been working there like a year and a half, I work with, they do their jobs at a very good level, but I'm able to do my job at a good level, whether that's on the grill, and take care of a whole side. And I think that's something to look at. Not only that, I've only been there like 3 months. I've already won an Employee of the Month. Okay. Whereas other people, they've been working there a year and a half, 2 years, haven't won nothing of that kind of thing. And I think it's all about your work ethic. That's what determines what your production, your worth is. And I think as we throw that back, like at Simone Biles, if we look at her production, bring this back, I think Shannon Sharp said something that was very notable and very true, and is that as an athlete, if you have a high level of production, then the level of tolerance is going to be very high as well. If that production drops, then so does the tolerance. And that's why we see many athletes lose the positions they have, is whether it be at a quarterback level, a starting quarterback, to a bench that never gets to see the field again. Yeah. As in terms of my work, the toleration should be high because my production is high, and that goes back to what I'm worth. I'm putting out a high level of production because my work ethic is at the top, like tip top. I know one thing is, if I'm going to work somewhere, you may have been there longer than me, and you may know it better than me, but I'm going to outwork you on every part that I can. But as we get near the end here, I want to, of course, thank you once again, fam, for being on the segment here with us today. Man. I want to also note and put out and end with this is that mental health is just as important as physical, just as important as spiritual, because I was told something earlier this week, is that your spiritual health and your spiritual relationship, whether like with God and all your routines, cannot be at its top point or at the best it can be if your mental health is not where it needs to be either. Yeah. Like you were saying earlier, there has to be a balance in your progress with the perseverance, the work, and the rest. It's the same thing with your spirituality. It has to be a balance between your physical, your mental, and your spiritual health. Knowing that spiritual is going to be the most important of these, but you also always want to have a balance between these three.
Yes, sir.
But like I said before, thank everybody for viewing. Thank you for being here. Of course, thank you, Trey, for coming on and having this conversation with me. I hope it was enlightening, uplifting, and at the same time educational, and that we can all take a little bit of something from this. This has been a great segment. And I hope you all continue to have a blessed Sabbath and a blessed week. Thank you for coming on, and this has been Right Before.